with the Black Business Alliance and the Journey to Success. My name is Clovia McIntosh, and I am the founder of Tubee, which is an infant to toddler bathtub. It's designed to go and grow with your baby. I came up with the idea when my nephew was 1 at the time. His name is Alex. I was giving him a bath and he slipped. I realized he had already outgrown his infant-sized tub, but was still too small for a full-size bathtub. I did start looking online at the time. I was looking at like Pinterest, and I noticed people were putting like the short laundry baskets inside of baby tubs, inside of full-size bathtubs to help keep the children, essentially safer. And for the first couple of years, I was like, I don't know what to do with this idea. I was working in banking in Manhattan, and I remember one day the idea just kept coming back, and a family member of mine was like, call that university that you went to, where I went for undergrad. And I ended up calling the University of Bridgeport. I remember this one professor, where I emailed her, Elena Cahill, and she told me that they had just started these weekly lunch and learns where you can come even as an alumni and sit in for an hour, and they assign you a mentor and help you just kind of bring this thing to life. And that's exactly what that essentially helped me do. I started going on Fridays. I went in with one idea, ended up pivoting back to my tub, and I had my first mentor. His name was Pete Devoni, and he was a chemical engineer. So we started talking about materials and how this has to be made of PP and TPE, right? PP is essentially the hard plastic, and TPE is the soft plastic. I knew nothing about this stuff going in, but you learn these things on the way. And we started just really working on my pitch. And then I got this really good mentor. Her name was Ellie Chandler. Her name is Ellie Chandler. And Ellie was just a force. She came in and helped me really refine my pitch, because I was pitching before and I wasn't really winning anything. And she helped me just really, make it succinct and essentially like impactful, right? Because you need to be able to relay your story in such an impactful way. And when I was able to nail down the story, I started applying for pitch competitions, and I started winning. I'm talking about from winning $300 to $12,000, like those type, and those numbers. One of the competitions that I won the most amount of money, I think it was $11,500 to be exact, was Girls for Technology. They're in Hartford, Connecticut. That organization, that lump sum of money really changed the trajectory of Tubee, because to get $11,500 at once in a product-based business is essential, because making a physical product, they call it capital intensive, as in you need a lot of money, because there are these things called molds that would make your prototype, and then those come with their own set of machines. So we're talking about, I'm not making a pen, right? I'm making a bathtub. So the type of machine you need for something like that is huge. I ended up just networking a lot. Some of the other accelerated, like I was at every event. Some of the programs that I use, obviously I said University of Bridgeport. There's an organization called Make Haven in New Haven, Connecticut. I know they have other locations in the state, but the one I frequent was the one in New Haven. And I went in there and I did start, they have a lot of hands-on things. So they have like woodworking, metalwork, metal shop, 3D printers, so you can print certain parts of your prototype, not the tub, but maybe like smaller things, and or you can bring like an existence. So what I did with my product was I had bought a basket off of Amazon, and then I brought it into Make Haven, and we started like just cutting and coloring it just so it can look more like a tub. And then we put the basket in a bathtub, and I had my neighbor's daughter at the time, and we put her in there, and I was like, okay, we're on to something. And I said, I have that picture. I have to find it for you. But you can see her looking up at me like, what are we doing? But that was my proof of concept, they call it. That's one of the first things you need that shows that it actually works. And then from there, I ended up using a prototyping company in the Philippines at first, right? Because at this point, I have limited funds. They charged me like $1,000. So after I had my neighbor's daughter in it, I started like getting sketches and using people on these freelance apps like, hey, can you make me a CAD of this? And I kept changing it. And I realized I had to increase my budget. Like paying someone $30 to make a sketch versus paying someone $300, I started seeing the difference. So that was one of the most important steps that I took. And then I'm like, okay, so you increase the budget slightly, you get better quality of work. I found a company overseas in the Philippines, and I'm like, I need something of this size. Can you guys make it? And I remember they were like, let's get off the platform and send me the money directly via Western Union. And in that, I took a big risk because they could have been scamming me. But after just going back and forth with them on the platform initially, and then not having to pay the platform fee on both ends, essentially, I just started Western Union in the money, and luckily they were sending me updates. And I remember when we finished the first prototype, and there was a lack of communication. I learned so much on not only on their behalf, but on my own. Like, you have to double check the specs, because when working internationally, we might use millimeters and they use centimeters, or inches and meters and feet, et cetera, just like someone's used. We use Fahrenheit and they use Celsius. So it's imperative to know the difference. So I started working with the company in the Philippines, and I learned early on, you have to double check the specs. Because I didn't double check, we ended up making a tub that a grown adult male fit in. So when they sent me a picture, I was like, oh no, this is not what I wanted. This tub is for a child. So we lost a lot of money and a lot of time printing something of that size. And I learned a valuable lesson then. That was one of probably the most important lessons. Always double check. And one day I remember they were like, they finished it. So they were like, I was like, I need to see it in a bathtub. And they're like, oh, we don't really have bathtubs. Like, we have to go to like a high-end hotel or something. So I rented a hotel for them for the night. And my teacher, we make this joke. We have this running joke that they must have lived like their best lives that night, right? They probably rented the Taj Mahal of the Philippines, and really enjoyed. They sent me a picture of the prototype in the tub, and I was so elated. I remember probably like a week later, my grandmother calls me and was like, there's a big package here for you. And I was like, I think my tub is here. And my niece, my brother's daughter, was actually there. And by this time, my nephew Alex, he's probably like 9 or something. Probably like 9, 8 at that point. So he doesn't even need the prototype. And I remember the prototype came in my niece. She was a little bit younger. Apple was maybe 4 or 5. And I remember I got her and I'm like, oh, Apple's standing in the tub. So we literally have pictures of my niece like standing in the tub. I have a lot of siblings and a lot of nieces and nephews. And I remember that was probably one of the happiest days of my life. And then from there, we ended up taking that prototype, like a real physical, usable prototype, and we just started getting pictures, and we did our first video with it from a friend of mine's daughter, because she was at least like 1, which is exactly the age range we were serving at the time, between 0 and 3. And that really changed the trajectory of our business, in the sense that it showed people that we're resilient and we're not going to stop. This was with all of our own money, and just started pitching it from there and started winning more and more money. Then we finally refined it. We just kept networking. I met this girl who was working on a smart potty for babies. She introduced me to this guy she used to work with named Joe at Melissa and Doug, the toy company. And he has a manufacturing firm in Avon, Connecticut, and he also has overseas relationships. And he was able to help me navigate the overseas relationship here. And they helped us make our final version of the bathtub. And that took about a year, right? Between once we received it, we had to even finalize the box designs. I learned how cardboard boxes are a lot cheaper than, so all those nice boxes you see in the stores with the nice white wrapping paper and the view, those boxes cost, okay? So we were like, just to get our MOQ, we're gonna go with this cardboard box, nicely designed with the word Tubee on it, maybe a picture of a tub on it. And that's what we did. We were just trying to figure out how to cut costs the best we could. And thanks to our manufacturing company called Zentry Point in Avon and facilitating our relationship overseas, that helped tremendously, because I didn't have boots on the ground over there. So it would have been very difficult to bring that to fruition without the help and without the expertise of someone who's already been in it. Like I said, he worked for Melissa and Doug. So he already had the expertise working with toy companies and children's product. And then we had to learn about the mailers, right? You ever see in the children's product, there are these stock cards that basically if something's wrong with the product, you'll register it, right? So it's like a product registration card. You have to set up an account with the post office, for Tubee, we had to find a testing lab that tests products. In New Haven, I know we do like chemicals, and I ended up finding a company called Bureau Veritas in Buffalo, New York. So we had to send them 6 samples of the tub, of the hammock, of the whale, and everything had to go through their own testing. And the tub kept failing, but not because it wasn't good. And I remember I was so defeated because every time you fail, you have to repay. You're talking about thousands of dollars to retest. They do like a drop test to make sure when it falls, there's no sharp parts. They do a burn test to make sure that it's flame resistant. It was such a stringent process. But the good thing is that it wasn't the product itself that needed to be redone. It was our warning labels. So every year, I believe it's every year, but oftentimes they update how they want the warning labels to either look or the font, et cetera, et cetera. So we just kept having to redo that part. And fortunately, I have a great team. I work with an engineer by the name of Young. She's phenomenal. Helped us design our non-slip whale mat. Because when we had gotten one of our products, we realized my sister was like, my knees kept slipping. So by this time, my nephew, he has a sister now. So she became essentially the tester of the product. And I was like, we need this mat. So Young designed the mat for us. And then my dentist at the time, his name is Frank, he came on to help us with marketing. He was also attending Yale. And I lived by Yale at the time. So we would like meet up. And from there, I just had a really good team around me. And I still utilize like my university. I mentioned some of the organizations I work with, Realist Lab in Stanford, Haven in Darien and Greenwich, Make Haven in New Haven, Girls for Technology in Hartford. There's the Black Business Alliance. There's a WBC. There's so many organizations within the state that can offer resources. There's SCORE that can give you a mentor. And you can utilize all of them or just one. And once again, like I say, you can even tap into your university, whatever works for you. And those really made a difference. And I even won like the Yale Innovation Summit one year. There's so many ways and people around you, believe it or not. Sometimes my friends, like one of my friends, he made me a sketch on a napkin, my friend Chris. That was like one of my first sketches. And, you know, same thing, getting my loved ones to lend me their children. One of my other friends does like taxes. And one of my other friends, a nurse. So they were all able to, you'll be surprised, you know, your mom, your dad, your best friend, your neighbor, you'll be surprised what people can offer you. So don't be afraid to ask for help. That's my biggest tip to entrepreneurs. Go out, network, run towards your goals. Like what did Mary Oliver said, what is it you plan to do with your one wild precious life? If you're chasing your dreams, read The Alchemist. It's an easy read. It's one of the most translated books of all time. Basically, the premise of the book is running towards your dreams, and as you encounter difficulties, which you will, it's inevitable, you just have to keep running, because the more you run towards what you want is the more the universe brings it towards you. And I've noticed that has been the case for me. So that would be my advice. Ask for help. People are willing to help. And run like your feet are on fire with your one wild precious life. And don't give up. It's going to get hard. It's inevitable. But life is hard, but you're harder. So, yeah. Thank you.